Ever wake up and feel nothing? Not sadness, not anger, not joy, just a dull emptiness, like life is happening around you, not with you. That's the silent ache. And millions of people are carrying it without even realizing it. It doesn't scream like a panic attack. It doesn't crash in like grief. It's quieter, slower, heavier. It's the sigh you let out in traffic, the scrolling at midnight, the "I'm tired" that really means I feel numb. Psychologists call this low-grade emotional pain, a subtle, persistent undercurrent of sadness, loneliness, or fatigue that becomes your emotional normal. A 2021 study published in the Journal of Affective Disorders found that people experiencing chronic emotional dullness often struggle to identify their feelings at all. It's not that the pain isn't there, it's just buried beneath years of survival mode. And this is where it begins for so many of us, not with a breakdown, but with a slow erosion of our joy. Imagine this. You're living in a house with a leaking roof. At first, it's just a drop here and there, annoying but manageable. Over time, it warps the wood, mold spreads, the structure weakens. But you've lived with it so long, you don't even notice the smell anymore. That's what emotional pain does when ignored. It becomes part of the architecture of your life. You might say, "I'm just tired. I don't really get excited about things anymore. I don't cry. I don't laugh. I just exist." If this feels familiar, you're not broken. You're overwhelmed. You've been strong for too long without rest, navigating heartbreaks, betrayals, maybe trauma, all while pretending you're okay. That kind of pain doesn't explode. It seeps in. It settles. And here's the tricky part. Because it doesn't look dramatic, no one checks in on you. No one says, "Are you okay?" Because you look functional. But being high-functioning while emotionally depleted is like running a marathon with no water. Eventually, you collapse. Here's the truth. Emotional pain doesn't always start with a scream. Sometimes it starts with silence, with not recognizing yourself in the mirror, with forgetting what joy feels like. And if we don't name it, we can't heal it. So let's name it now. That quiet ache, that feeling of drifting. It's not who you are. It's a signal. A message from within saying, "Please don't leave me behind. I'm fine." 2 words, so small, so dangerous. Because most of the time, we're not fine. We're afraid. We're exhausted. We're hurting in ways we can't explain. But "I'm fine" is easier. It keeps people from asking too many questions. It helps us avoid the scary truth that maybe we're not okay and we don't know what to do about it. Denial isn't always loud. It's not slamming doors or pretending nothing ever happened. It's subtle, clever, protective. It shows up as overworking, as staying busy so you don't have to feel, as saying, "That was a long time ago, I'm over it," even though your body still tenses when someone mentions their name. Here's a truth most people don't want to face. Healing doesn't begin until you stop performing wellness. And for many of us, the performance started early. Maybe you learned as a kid that crying made you weak, that showing pain made others uncomfortable. So you buried it, smiled, got good at being the strong one. But the body keeps the score. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's research shows that unresolved trauma is stored not just in memory, but in the nervous system. That means denial doesn't erase the pain. It buries it in your posture, your breath, your sleep, your stress levels. And eventually, the mask cracks. Real-life example? Someone breaks up with you and you say, "I'm glad, I needed that." But inside, you're reeling. You're checking their social media. You're replaying every word. You tell your friends you're fine, but you're falling apart in silence. This is denial in disguise. Denial also looks like comparison. Other people have it worse. At least I have a job. It wasn't that bad. But trauma is not a competition. Your pain is valid, even if someone else has more. You don't have to earn your suffering. And here's the cost of staying in denial. You never give yourself permission to heal. You keep pushing forward, but deep down, you're still carrying the same wound, still flinching from the same memories, still trying to outrun a feeling you never fully faced. Denial is a survival strategy, but healing begins when you dare to see yourself honestly. And that takes courage. So if you've been saying, "I'm fine," but feeling hollow, this is your moment. Not to fall apart, but to finally stop pretending. To look in the mirror and say, "I'm not okay," and that's okay. Because that is where real healing begins. It starts small. A song on the radio, a familiar smell, someone saying your name the wrong way. And suddenly, you're not in the present anymore. You're back in that room, back in that argument, back in that feeling of being small, abandoned, or unseen. That's the floodgate moment. One trigger, and everything you thought you'd buried comes rushing back. You're not overreacting. You're remembering. What you're feeling isn't just about now. It's the weight of every then you never had space to process. Dr. Peter Levine, founder of Somatic Experiencing, explains that trauma is not in the event, but in the nervous system's response that was never completed. When a trigger appears, your body seizes the chance to finish what it couldn't before. That's why it feels so big, so fast, so overwhelming. Here's what it might look like. You get criticized at work, and suddenly you feel like a 10-year-old trying to earn a parent's approval. Someone forgets to text you back, and it feels like abandonment. You're invited to a party and panic, not because of the party, but because crowds remind you of past social humiliation. The emotional intensity doesn't match the situation, because it's not about the situation. It's about the pain underneath it. This is often the point where people either shut down or spiral. They think, "Why am I so sensitive? What's wrong with me? I thought I was over this." But triggers aren't proof of weakness. They're proof you're still carrying something heavy. And sometimes a breakdown is just your body trying to break through. The danger here? Getting stuck in shame. Shame tells you, you should be past this. You're too much. No one else reacts like this. But the truth is, almost everyone does. They just hide it better. Here's what healing looks like in this stage. Not suppressing the trigger, but listening to it, letting the emotion rise, not to drown you, but to teach you. You can say, "This is old pain. It's visiting me again, but I'm not that helpless version of me anymore." That's how we stop the flood from taking over, not by building a dam, but by learning to swim. Stage 5. This is where most people get stuck, not in breakdown, not in rage, but in nothingness. You stop crying, you stop feeling, you stop hoping. And on the outside, you look okay, maybe even better. But inside, you're numb, detached, disconnected from everything that once mattered. Numbing isn't always dramatic. It's quiet, functional, socially acceptable. It looks like binge-watching shows until 3 a.m., scrolling endlessly on your phone, drinking just to relax, working overtime so you don't have to go home to yourself. It's not about laziness or addiction. It's about survival. Your nervous system is trying to protect you. When pain feels too big, it shuts down feeling altogether. This is called dissociation, a coping mechanism where the mind detaches from emotional reality. It can feel like you're floating through your own life. You smile but don't feel joy. You function but don't feel present. You love people but feel far away from them. And here's the trap. Numbness feels safer than pain. It's comfortable, predictable. You don't cry. You don't rage. You just survive. But survival isn't the same as living. Clinical psychologist Dr. Hilary Jacobs Hendel explains that when core emotions like sadness, fear, or anger get blocked, we shift into inhibitory emotions like guilt, shame, or numbness. These are emotional defense systems, but when they last too long, They disconnect us from ourselves. You might hear yourself say, "I don't really care about anything anymore. Everything just feels flat. I don't even know who I am without the chaos." This isn't failure. This is your nervous system waving a white flag. It's saying, "I can't handle any more pain, so I shut it all off." But healing isn't about flipping a switch. It's about slowly, gently, coming back. Start small. Sit with one emotion for 30 seconds. Journal without editing. Notice how your body feels when you remember something hard. Let tears come, even if they don't make sense. Because each time you feel anything, you're building the bridge back to yourself. You don't have to rip the numbness off like a bandage. You just have to whisper to it, "I'm ready to feel again," even if it hurts. And that whisper? That's the beginning of aliveness. It doesn't look dramatic. It's not a breakthrough in therapy. Not a perfect morning routine. Not a sudden realization while journaling under moonlight. It's smaller than that. It's the moment you stop running. The day you say, "I don't want to feel numb anymore," even if you don't know what comes next. That moment, that quiet choice, that's the shift. Healing rarely begins with clarity. It begins with courage. You still feel lost, still overwhelmed, still unsure. But something inside you whispers, "I can't keep living like this." This is what the shift can look like. You finally admit, out loud, that you're not okay. You stop blaming yourself for everything. You start reading about trauma, not to fix yourself, but to understand. You pause before reacting and ask, "What am I really feeling right now?" It's messy, it's slow, it's full of doubt, but it's real. At this stage, something incredible happens. You start recognizing your patterns, not as identity, but as survival strategies. The people-pleasing, the withdrawal, the explosive anger, the avoidance of intimacy. You begin to see them not as who you are, but as what you learn to do to stay safe. And when that awareness lands, you stop judging yourself. You start forgiving yourself. Psychotherapist Resmaa Menakem says, "Pain that is not transformed will be transmitted." This stage is when you decide to stop passing it on to your partner, your children, your body, your future. It's when you say, "I don't want to just survive. I want to feel. I want to live." But here's the truth. This is also where fear kicks in, because now you're facing the very thing you've avoided: your pain, your grief, your anger, your unmet needs. And it's terrifying. That's why many people turn back. They go from numbness to pain, and then panic. But pain is not the enemy. It's the doorway. The only way out is through. You are not regressing. You are emerging. Yes, it hurts. But hurt is not always harm. Sometimes it's the body thawing after years of emotional winter. You might feel more sensitive now. That's a good sign. You might cry over old memories. That's release. You might feel exhausted. That's recalibration. Don't confuse discomfort with danger. You're healing. The shift isn't always visible from the outside. But inside, it's seismic. It's you, returning to yourself. Let's take a breath and look back. We started with a feeling. That quiet ache you couldn't name. The weight in your chest. The disconnection from your own life. And maybe, for the first time, you saw the path laid out. The silent ache, when emptiness becomes your norm. Denial in disguise, the "I'm fine" mask you wear. The floodgate, the moment when old wounds resurface. Numbing out, the trap of surviving without feeling. The shift begins. Your first real choice to come back to yourself. 6-8, that's the road ahead. Integration, compassion, freedom. But stage 5, that's where you start to live again. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You're not broken because you carry pain. You adapted, you survived, and now you're awakening. Healing doesn't mean you never hurt again. It means you hurt with awareness and respond with love instead of fear. You might still have days where numbness returns, moments where your past knocks at your door. But now you'll recognize it. You'll pause, you'll breathe, and you'll remind yourself, I know what this is. I've seen it before, and I'm not alone. So if this video spoke to you, if you saw yourself in these stages, don't rush. Just begin, one feeling at a time, one honest moment at a time. Healing is not a destination. It's a relationship with yourself you keep choosing. Your turn. What stage are you in right now? Share your story in the comments. No judgment, just honesty. And tell us, where are you watching from? Let's make this space a community. If this helped you, subscribe and share it with someone who's silently struggling. They might be stuck in stage 5, and your share could be their turning point. And if you're ready for the next step, watch our next video on how trauma hides in your body and what to do about it. You are not behind. You are exactly where your healing begins.